How you doing? I'm Keith McGowan, the Outboard Dad, here to help you have a better boating experience through maintenance and taking care of your outboard motor. I'm a big proponent of outboard motors. Of course, no matter what motor you have in your boat, you want to take good care of it. So if you remember, we went through our Johnson 150 here. We did a trim seal, we did water pump. We haven't touched the thermostats yet. We're probably going to open that up as well. I was told they were just replaced, but I just want to check to be sure. And then we're going to fire this up. But if you remember on our Mercury, we had an issue with our ignition wiring. So I did get the controls with this, and here's what I ended up getting. So this is what we have here. So I've got to do some reading, look at some wiring diagrams. This is where it plugs into the motor, and this is supposed to be hooked up to our key switch. Obviously red is usually power, yellow is usually accessories. We did check this with compression. It was within range. It was about 8% difference. It wasn't that 10% mark. And we'll also make sure we flush some water through this motor. So this will be the next project we're going to get into. So first I'm going to open my book and read through on this and come up with a wiring diagram, get this ignition switch work so that we can do some tests on this motor, fire it up, and then we'll clean it up. So in order to figure out where our wiring goes, I took some of my manual and, screenshotted some things and printed them. I made some copies first. So I have some different wiring diagrams here. I like this one the best, mainly because it's big. I can see it better. But I can see what I need to have, right? This is off position from M to M. On position is B to A. And start is B, A, and S, right? Then primer on. I'm not worried about primer, but I want to make sure my start and off works. My start, off, and on. So it looks like it's only M, and then looks like B and A and S are what's needed. So start needs to go to S. So I'm going to check out S wire here is yellow with the red stripe. So that should go out to our motor. So we'll make sure we have yellow, and I have yellow here with the red stripe. Oh, this looks like it was spliced here. So it looks like we're going to have to cut this back because my yellow with the red wire is actually pretty short here. So as I go through these, see this one was cut off real short there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this sheathing back and get to the main wires here and make sure we can connect these properly. So let's take a look a little closer. So now I can see my wires better. I'm going to safe off anything that I'm not using, but here is my red or my yellow with the red stripe. So that goes to my start on here, which it does have it labeled S inside there. So that's already hooked up to this wire, which goes out to our neutral safety switch. So I'm going to just go ahead and tie into that wire. There's lots of splices here. I'm just going to kind of clean this up because it doesn't need to go through that neutral safety switch anymore. So we'll just cut this back, put a connector on here, and we'll go through one by one and make all of our connections, and then we'll get it on the motor and test it. So I cleaned up that wiring that was here. This is the yellow one with the red stripe. This is a yellow one. Just going to strip it, make a connection. I'm going to do these one by one. This way I don't screw them up. I don't try to strip and get a whole bunch of them all at the same time. I'm going to strip this one, do this one, then we'll look at this diagram, do the next one, and we'll take them one step at a time. So if any of you watched my videos before, you know I'm a big proponent of these types of Thomas & Betts tools. If you look closely, it has a point in here. I'm going to put that point right where it goes on to that wire connector and pushes in on it so that this will hold for years to come. Also, if you notice, these are heat shrink butt connectors. You can get them on Amazon. So that little point is diving into that wire, and it's going to hold it for, like I said, for years to come. I've found it to be the most secure hold. Boats are out there vibrating around, bouncing. That's going to hold really good. So we got one. Let's go to the next one. So as we said, we do have S hooked up because we need to start the motor. So I'm going to start here. And we have A. So if I look at A, that's a purple wire coming through here. So I have two different purple wires, but one of the purple wires has a white stripe. So it's not the one with the white stripe that we want. That one actually goes on C. So I noticed there's a couple of connectors already on here that someone had. And it goes out to a plug. This probably feeds our power tilt and trim. So we already have a ring terminal on this, so this was definitely on here. So we're gonna put the ring terminal on to A, which is right here. So we'll get our screwdriver and we'll hook this up. So this is our purple wire. At least they were nice enough to leave us the screws. So I want to make sure it's tight. I don't want to over tighten it. It is a brass screw, so it will strip easy. They also left us the key, which is nice, and that functions properly. So I'm going to look at this purple wire, go through, because there is a couple splices in it. I don't see anything. Well, no, right there is, here I am saying I don't see anything, and I already have a bad splice here. So we're going to fix this, and then we'll reconnect, and we'll check the rest of this wire. I think the rest of it is okay. So that's what we want to check. We'll go ahead and fix this poor splice, and then we'll move on to the next wire. So since this one was a little bullet connector that was on here, somebody had it going out to something, and when I turn my key on, it looks like I'm gonna have power on A. So I left the connector like this. I put the two wires together on one side. This way, if someone hooks this up under their dashboard, they have a place they can run another wire. So let's see, what is our next wire? We have S, we have A, we need B. So what is B? B is our red wire. That's got to be our 12 volts. Looks like red with a blue stripe. So that looks like this main one here, heavy duty, thicker wire, has the ring terminal on it. So now we'll hook this one up, and this one goes on B, which is missing a screw. So we're going to steal a screw from M here. See if we can make that work. Okay, so we'll tighten up our 12 volt red wire here on B. So now we should be able to start it, and it should stay on because we're A and B, but we also want to turn it off. So M goes to M, so it looks like we have a ground wire, which should be black, which is here, which goes to one side of M, and the other side is black with a yellow stripe, so that's this one here. So we're going to have to put a ring terminal on that one. Let's do this one first. We are going to steal another screw off of C, because C is primer on. We're not using the primer right now. So we'll go ahead and put this one on to our ground. Then we'll check on the motor to make sure this goes to ground, and it should, through our harness. Okay, so now we just need to get a ring terminal. Looks like it's spliced here. I'm going to go ahead and cut off this extra piece of wire. Black one here, because we have a longer one here that's red. I'm not happy that it's red because I don't like to use the same color. Since this is a ground, I'm not going to worry about doing that, so we're going to get a ring terminal on this, and we'll get that connected. So I'm really not happy that this is connected to a red wire. It just doesn't make sense to have red hooked up to ground, but people do all kinds of things in boats over the years. So we'll go ahead and use it for now, just to be sure. So again, M, which is our black with the yellow stripe here. It's connected to a red wire, so that we're going to put on M here. Then we should be able to start and stop this motor for test runs. So next we'll get our battery hooked up with our battery cables, and we'll give it a test to make sure it cranks over and make sure we don't cook anything. The other thing I want to do with all these wires is just run through again, make sure they're tight. I want to make sure there's very close together connections, and I just want to make sure nothing's going to touch each other so that we're good to go. So the rest of these wires are brown and yellow here. We do have another purple with a, oh, that's our primer, right? That's what we talked about. C is primer on. So this is our C wire. This would go here. So we could make that work, although I'm out of screws. So we will just safe that off. Actually, there's no reason to, because it's not going to send 12 volts down it anyway. And this one's already taped off. So I think we're good and ready for a test.